All right, 1, 2. Now, before anybody gets all bent out of shape, that was just a primed case with no powder and no projectile. So, welcome back. If you can't tell, lately I've been making a bunch of wacky AOWs, mainly because they're a ton of fun, and I always love a nice challenge. So, the cool thing about doing AOWs is that these are literally almost entirely scratch made, and you have to get really creative about how you manage to jam all of the guts into something that was never meant to have the guts in it in the first place. So the camera is one of those things that, again, you know, when you're a kid, you teenager, whatever, you're dreaming up things that James Bond would use and stuff like that because you got nothing else better to do. So this is my take on that. And keep in mind, this is a working, functional firearm. Let me crack this thing open. All right, so here are the core components. Here is the camera body. Here, it's been gutted and cleaned out. This is the spacer, and this is the receiver, as most people would call it. And you can tell I had to kind of go through a redesign here. I'll get to that in a minute. But the camera body itself, this is an old Minolta 35mm camera, and you know, I bought a bunch of cameras off eBay. They were all busted and broken. And, you know, nothing really of value was lost here. But jamming something like an AOW into a camera body and having it actually go through the lens hole straight out the front is a lot more difficult than it would seem, actually. So cameras are laid out, obviously, long ways. They're laid out this way because the film goes from this side over to this side, it gets wound back up, and then, you know, you get it developed, whatever. There's not a lot of depth. No matter which way you cut it here, there's just not a whole lot of depth. There's not a lot of room for a hammer to swing. This way, traditionally, there's just not a lot of room to work with. So even after busting out the lenses and then milling out the camera body through the light box and all that, I kind of had to get really creative with this one, and I think that's what made this project so much fun. The shutter button has been, you know, redesigned. This is now the trigger. The lenses for the viewfinder and all that are still there. You can tell I cracked it when I was trying to pull this camera apart. Right, yeah, right there and right there. You know, focus ring and, you know, the f-stop and all that stuff still moves. Yeah. But moving over to the receiver end of things. So originally I had this laid out, so it was going to be permanently attached to the inside of this, and I kind of got a rude awakening with this one. So let me take this a little bit farther apart. I'm not going to be able to take it the rest of the way apart, but I'll take it apart as far as I can for you. All right, so the reason that I don't want to take this any farther apart is because during the redesign here, so the original plan was, like I said, this was going to be permanently attached to the inside of the camera body itself, and this was going to be one self-contained unit. However, the style of striker mechanism that I ended up using in this, this striker actually proved to be too light. So what I ended up having to do was put an immensely powerful spring underneath this plate right here. And the spring is actually strong enough that I had to add more material to the body in order to give it somewhere to go. This is a very, very heavy mainspring out of an old side-by-side shotgun. And I mean, this is one of those things where in order to get this recocked and, you know, ready to fire, you have to put this in a vise. It is just extremely strong, but that's why I'm not taking this out of here the rest of the way. So here's the barrel, and I've got it painted black, so it kind of looks the part for the lens, and it's got little cutouts on it so you can take it in and out through the front, and it's chambered 22 short. This has just a hair of rifling left on it. Hard to see. And this is what I would consider the breech block plus the actuator or the firing pin. So I had to get, again, very creative. Well, let's focus here. I had to get very creative to get this thing to work. Because, again, there's just not enough depth inside of this camera body to really get, you know, like a good hammer design going or something like that. No matter what, you would have to find an actuator design. That's the only way I could really slice it in order to get everything out the front. You know, if you drill a hole through the side, you can do whatever you want, but I wanted everything to go straight out the front, out through the lens hole. So this is it right here. Man, that won't focus. There we go. So the barrel butts up against here, like that. And this is the firing pin slash actuator. So when this is loaded and it's got a cartridge in it, this rests on top of the rim of the cartridge, and when you fire it, this gets pushed down by the shutter button. It drops. It lets this hammer run all the way forward, I mean, just unbelievably hard too, and it strikes this firing pin actuator thing like that, and the firing pin comes out and strikes the rim. So that is how I ended up doing this. Now, I'm sure that there's a bunch of other people that have done this, and they've done it a much better way and all that sort of thing. I haven't really found much on the internet. I'm not saying that it's not there, it's just that I can't find it. So I'd be interested to see how the other designs have turned out over the, you know, over years or however long. Again, this needed that ultra strong spring in order to set off some of these cartridges. Before, it was just having so many light strikes, I would have to restrike, you know, 2, 3, 4 times in order to get one of these to go off. But now with this ultra strong spring under here, that is no more. So with this having that ultra strong spring in here, in order to use this, you would take this out. You know, you take it out of the case or the holster or whatever this would be determined as now. Take it out, you know, bench set it, leave the barrel out, and then you would pull the barrel out. This is a spent case. This is just for demonstration. Put that in there, and then you can just drop the barrel straight in, get a screwdriver, and thread the barrel back in. Doesn't have to be on here very tight, it just has to be enough, and you can feel it right there. So now this is chambered, loaded, cocked, and ready to fire. And then to fire, you would just press down on the shutter button. Now keep in mind, since that spring in there is so heavy, you really have to push on that in order to get it to, see, there you go. But that is the Minolta AOW. So thanks for watching, and hopefully you found this interesting and cool. Happy building.